Texas State Representative James Talarico, a Democratic candidate for U.S. Senate, taped an interview for CBS's The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. The segment was recorded but ultimately did not air on the CBS broadcast network. Instead, it was released on YouTube, where it amassed more than 85 million views. CBS stated that its legal advisors raised concerns about the Federal Communications Commission's equal time rule. The rule was designed during an era when broadcast frequencies were scarce public resources and government licensing carried specific public interest obligations. This is some of the interview.
This is the party that ran against cancel culture. And now they're trying to control what we watch, what we say, what we read. And this is the most dangerous kind of cancel culture, the kind that comes from the top. They went after The View because I went on there. They went after Jimmy Kimmel for telling a joke they didn't like. They went after you for telling the truth about Paramount's bribe to Donald Trump. Corporate media executives are selling out the First Amendment to curry favor with corrupt politicians. And a threat to any of our First Amendment rights is a threat to all of our First Amendment rights.
The equal time requirement does not apply to cable or online platforms in the same way it applies to over-the-air broadcast networks. In this case, CBS concluded that airing the interview on its broadcast network could potentially obligate it to offer comparable time to other Democratic primary candidates, including Representative Jasmine Crockett. There has been no public finding from the FCC that the segment violated federal rules, nor has the agency announced enforcement action in connection with the interview. The decision appears to have been precautionary and internally driven by network counsel. The segment's digital release on YouTube avoided broadcast license exposure while reaching a significantly larger audience than typical late-night television viewership. Following the online release, Talarico's campaign reported raising approximately $2.5 million in a 24-hour period. This is another soundbite from the interview.
What is your heartfelt hand out to the people who want to use religion as a tool of political power?
Well, for 50 years, the religious right, a political movement, that is a perfect description for it. They convinced a lot of our fellow Christians that the most important issues were abortion and gay marriage. Two issues that aren't mentioned in the Bible, two issues that Jesus never talked about. Jesus in Matthew 25 tells us exactly how you and I and every one of our fellow believers, how we're going to be judged and how we're going to be saved. By feeding the hungry, by healing the sick, by welcoming the stranger. Nothing about going to church, nothing about voting Republican. It was all about how you treat other people. I've said before, don't tell me what you believe, show me how you treat other people and I'll tell you what you believe. And I think in our faith, we've got to get back to those fundamentals. My granddad was a Baptist preacher in South Texas. And when I was little, he told me that Christianity is a simple religion. Not an easy religion, he would always clarify, but a simple religion because Jesus gave us two commandments: love God and love neighbor. And there was no exception to that second commandment. Love thy neighbor regardless of race or gender or sexual orientation or immigration status or religious affiliation. And it's why I have fought so hard for the separation of church and state in the state capital in Texas.
He sounds like a good candidate to me. If you haven't seen the interview, I suggest you watch it. But let's speak plainly here. The equal time rule was written in 1934, when radio bandwidth was finite and the government treated airwaves as scarce public property. That made sense then. There were only 3 channels, limited access, and real concerns about monopoly control over the media. But today, a taped interview can reach 85 million people on YouTube overnight. The scarcity argument evaporates. If the FCC did not formally rule that this interview violated the law, and there had been no enforcement action, then what is CBS doing? Why are the networks preemptively muting conversations out of fear of hypothetical regulatory exposure? And here's the deeper concern. Equal time is meant to ensure fairness, not silence. If another candidate wants airtime, book them, interview them. Let the public hear from everyone. That is competition. That is democracy. When legal ambiguity becomes a deterrent to speech, even indirectly, we should pause. Because once media institutions begin restricting discourse out of caution rather than necessity, the chilling effect becomes cultural, not merely regulatory. Freedom of speech does not erode in dramatic proclamations. It erodes in incremental hesitations, in decisions made quietly behind conference room doors. If candidates cannot speak freely in public forums without procedural anxiety overshadowing editorial judgment, then we are not protecting fairness. We are narrowing discourse. And when discourse narrows, accountability weakens. When accountability weakens, power consolidates. This is not hyperbole. This is constitutional arithmetic. Let me know your thoughts.